seemed like that particular community built that community for whatever they wanted to do, rather than along some kind of guideline.
I have to say that Neot Semadar is a group of people who have decided that the way society is doing things is doesn't go along with what they believe is happiness.
It's incredibly unique.
Reflective and intentional in everything, both thought and actions.
They're very, very interested in how people interact with each other and kind of the emotions involved with that. And they definitely use an approach of kind of break you down and build you back up again in order to accomplish that.
So I would start out by saying that Neot Semadar is like a kibbutz, which is like a farm, a communal farm in Israel. But they are something else also.
A kibbutz comes in very, very many different forms now. Traditionally, in the beginning of the 20th century, they were all they were much more unified in both their mission and the way that they were structured. As they've evolved and turned into these multi-generational entities and communities, they've come to really stick to the foundational ideology of socialism. And the one time that I actually did feel closest or more like these early kibbutzniks who were like in the fields singing songs and sweating at 5 a.m. was when we were pulling weeds at Neot Semadar and talking about why we were in Israel and our projects. And just, there were the people who were on the kibbutz wanted to get to know us and why we were there, and that was really cool.
It's also interesting because it's, like, for the volunteers, designed to be a stressful experience. It's, like, from what I can tell, like mental training in a way. Like, because you don't get to decide where you work or what you eat, and it's long days, and just meal spacing is a little farther than would be desirable.
So yeah, so on the kibbutz, as part of our kind of payment to the kibbutz for being there, we worked in the mornings from usually a little after 6 to 8:30 when we had breakfast. During that time, we did like a lot of kind of more menial tasks because we were new there, predominantly in the kitchen and in the vegetable garden. And then at sometimes near the end, I started to work, kind of doing more special tasks.
Well, I started the workday with the silence in the dark at 5 a.m. drinking tea. But I was also noticing the people around me and what they were doing and how they were all kind of doing their own thing, also kind of waking up and getting ready for their own work days. But it was in this very like circular and inclusive kind of unit of a room. And just in one day I was in a factory and then the field, like pulling weeds and working with dirt. And then I was back in the factory and then I was working cleaning dishes. So I felt like a real gear in the whole system of the whole community. I was, even though I was just visiting for a day, I felt like an essential part of the whole process to keep it all going.
I really enjoyed silent eating.
Not talking during the meals did allow me to focus more on my food, which over here, sometimes I wish I could do a little bit more.
It made me focus more on where I was and like I found myself looking around much more and being more observational than being stressed out about having to talk.
I think one of the biggest kind of challenges I had was kind of keeping myself busy. Like at home I have a lot of projects that I can work on at any time, like a lot of different things that I do, and it really helps me kind of stay sane. Like being very, very busy is how I kind of shut out everything else. So it's hard for me to kind of take individual control over something and really find a passion. And I kind of did that with bicycles, but again, it was hard because of kind of resources and things. I got very stuck.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely just felt the need to do things at times. Like I felt kind of confined.
Being there for such a long time was hard in the sense that it was so isolating.
Leaving for trips with kind of other WPI students like to Engedi was kind of very, very shocking at first. It's loud, it's bright, things aren't, like food isn't that great, like things aren't the way that we left them. And it was weird because it was a mixture of kind of excitement and that kind of longing to be back. Kind of we're excited to be out, we're excited to be doing stuff, but also the outside world's a little scary now.
Our most memorable part of the whole day was the little break in the workday where we all like went out to a little circle table in this patch of grass in the sun and just had snacks. You know, some of our people who had been there for a while, they led the conversation, but in a very, again, intentional way. They were very deep and large topics that we talked about, like what time means and like how to think about the future and stuff like that, and how to find more appreciation in the things that you do every day.
Everyone starts circling up and what's going on here? And then this guy runs out into the center of the circle and shouts and points at someone next to him. And then that person runs in and shouts. And it's like just being part of an event like that where it's like you can be completely ridiculous and like free of judgment was kind of, and it was one of the transitionary moments in there for me, definitely, because like I'm generally a very reserved person, and so it was very refreshing to be in an environment where you could just be completely ridiculous and it's totally cool and people join in.
At Semadar, although we had certain times where we had to be places, the way that we talked about it and kind of like came to think of each responsibility, it was less. They became less of responsibilities as just just a part of my day, and like things that were going to happen, and that I could get the most out of if I approached it in the right kind of positive mindset. So here it's much more go, 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 go. It really kind of put in perspective the way that we really break down each day, and like at every hour we have to be in a place just because it's scheduled that way. We made an appointment, so we have to be here then.
It is more stressful here in a lot of ways. Like I've been running around from appointment to group meeting to project to homework today since about 8 a.m.
It's been weird, kind of WPI is very materialistic, very work-focused, very kind of fast-paced. I mean, it's almost a dipole, right? I mean, Semadar is like kind of don't spend money on things we don't have to, kind of we're here to work, but we're here also to kind of, I don't know, there's something greater to why we're here.
There's more to life than just being like with your own thoughts all the time.
I still find myself thinking when I'm at work here at the restaurant, I think like when I think to the future of what I'm hoping for, like wishing I would get to sooner, I take a moment and be like, wait a minute, remember that conversation you had about appreciating the time for now and not thinking so much about the future? Because it really makes me more content.
Also gotten a new appreciation for taking a step back and not working 1,000% every minute of every day.
Most importantly, like Neot Semadar gave us a very different perspective, like a very different lens that we can use to look at the world.
I learned that there isn't one way to live.